Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So this is a part 2 of the last video that we done. In the last video we reacted to a true story animation about a girl who was stuck in a coma but she could hear everything around her. I'm not going to go into detail about the part 1, so I'll leave a card up here. Go and check out that video and then come back and watch this video. Without further ado, we're going to watch the part 2 of this story. And yeah, let's see what happens. Also, I've linked the channel that makes these videos down in the description down below, so definitely go and check them out.
I remember loving science, but I no longer remembered any of the stuff that we'd learned at school. At the same time, my mind clung onto those memories, and at the same time, started creating new ones that hadn't existed before. I had to find a way to stay here, in this world.
See, I feel so bad for her because she's been stuck in a coma for so long. It now means that, like, she can't really remember that many things. Some of the memories which she thinks she's experienced, she actually hasn't. Like, it really would start to mess with your brain.
I had to find a way to stay here, in this world. Even if I had to create my own world inside my head. Maisie became my best friend. She always visited on Sundays. Every time she came, she talked about her classmates. How Sophie had fallen in love with Joe, and how Kit had failed the math test, so the teacher had punished him by making him solve 10 equations in front of the whole class.
If she's a really creative person, and by the sounds of it she is, at least she'll have a lot of time to make up stories in her head. I know it sounds really sad and kind of crazy, but like, if you're a really creative person, you honestly can daydream so much, and your dreams are actually really good. Some of the dreams that I have, especially my daydreams, are incredible. Like, I can literally make up scenarios in my head. Like, I can make things happen in my head. It's actually quite good, but it just sucks that she's stuck in a coma.
Maisie's visits, though they were only in my head, were the best parts of my day. I didn't know that what I was doing in order to entertain myself was actually a kind of exercise for my damaged mind. I didn't realize that I was helping myself get better. If I'd known, I wouldn't have waited 3 years to start doing it.
Oh yeah, I completely forgot she's been stuck in this coma for like 3 years. It's actually so crazy to think that 3 years she's been stuck in a bed, not able to speak to anyone. Her bones and muscles are going to be so weak. If she does get out of the coma, which hopefully she does, she's going to need to go for a lot of rehab to fix her muscles.
My consciousness was slowly returning. You might wonder, how did I realize that? Well, simply, I felt my eyelids flutter whenever Maisie visited me. Believe it or not, our thoughts have incredible power.
I think what she meant by that is that she's slowly coming out of the coma, like she can feel her eyelids fluttering. So hopefully that's a good thing. I think that means that she'll hopefully regain consciousness of her body. We can only hope.
But even so, no one knew that I was coming out of a coma. Ever since I'd first been diagnosed as being in a coma, I was totally aware of everything happening around me, exactly like a normal person. But I was stuck inside a silent body, it seemed, a mind full of life that no one noticed.
See, that's actually so scary. Like, she could literally hear everything. I just feel so bad for the dad and the dog as well, because like, they've missed out on so much of their daughter's life. She was 13 when she went in, and right now I think she's 16, so she's basically missed the majority of her teenage years. And like, whenever you're a teenager, you probably shape the most into a human being.
I started accepting this cruel fate and got lost in my
No, you're
thoughts.
gonna get better.
Suddenly,
again.
I could no longer tell the difference between what was real and what wasn't. There's a fine line that separates memory from imagination, and I clearly overstepped it. But the one thing I was absolutely certain of was that the fights my parents had and my mom's betrayal were 100% real.
I just hope that the mom leaves soon, like I really do, because the mom's just a load of tough work that nobody really needs. I feel like in all of these stories there's always a really bad character, and it's always a mum or dad, and I always feel so bad for the kids.
After 4 years, my mom had had enough of me. How long must I endure moving this body left and right without any response?
That's her
She would yell
daughter.
in my dad's face, and he would answer, "Until she dies." Imagine being in my position, not being able to speak to a friend, not feeling loved anymore, not having any ambitions or dreams, no hope of being able to look forward to anything.
I honestly feel so bad for her, and I really do hope that this story has a happy ending.
All my thoughts were miserable ones. I lived in fear, and if I was being honest, I was waiting for death so I could escape from all of this. I pictured myself dying in some nursing home, cold and alone.
No,
and
don't
so
have
that's
them
how
thoughts.
I spent those 4 long years. Snowball's existence was my only comfort. My eyelids started fluttering a lot. You might think that's not really a big deal. Anyone can do that without trying, but that wasn't the case with me. Snowball noticed what was going on and started to bark for hours and hours without stopping.
I feel like the dog is low-key helping her. Like, if she didn't have the dog, she would probably be in a much worse state. So honestly, Snowball is here to save the day.
My mom couldn't tolerate it. My dad came
Wait,
home and
what?
Snowball continued to bark. Everyone went to bed and Snowball was still barking. He was just like me, wishing for someone to realize that I was still with them.
They can't get rid of the dog. Like, if they literally get rid of the dog, I'm gonna fall out with both of them. I already hate the mom. If the dad lets the dog go, I'm not gonna be happy.
But what happened was the opposite of what we hoped for.
Aww.
The next day, his barking stopped completely.
No.
I didn't know what had happened to him. Mom must have gotten rid of him.
Why did they get rid of the dog? No. Oh no, I really hope they get the dog back in the end. That's not nice. I don't like that. Like, I'm actually really irritated right now. I usually never get affected by stories, but this specific one, like, has affected me. Like, it's made me feel sad and I'm angry now that they got rid of the dog.
I was really worried about him. Snowball was my only friend, the only one that made me feel that I wasn't actually dead. He disappeared. That day, I heard some heated discussion between my parents. You might say that nothing was new, but this time it was different. My mom decided to leave my dad.
See, usually in a lot of relationships, I'd be like, oh, that's so sad. Like, I'm gutted that you guys split up. But I'm actually happy that the mom has now left the dad. She was just toxic, like she just wasn't needed. At least now the mom is gone, and hopefully the daughter will get better, and then the dad will get the dog back. At least the dad will also be able to save a lot of money because that mom was going through it quickly.
She accused him of having never been the perfect husband. She was
Oh,
crazy.
shut
He was the
up.
coolest dad a girl
Just get
could
rid
ever
of her.
wish for. He tried to persuade her to stay, but it was pointless. She screamed at the top of her voice. It would have been better if she died that day. It's like a curse that won't go away unless I leave.
Well, she's gone now, so honestly, I'm happy enough. We don't need the mom anymore.
The sound of the door slamming was the last thing I heard that day. I was incapable of changing any of the things around me, or even the way my mom and dad looked at me. I was an invisible, silent watcher to how people acted when they thought no one was looking. Unfortunately, I wasn't just a watcher. Because of my inability to communicate with people, I became the perfect victim. A creature that looked like it was devoid of emotion. For 4 years, my mom used to abuse me mentally and physically.
Oh my God, whoa, that took a dark turn. In part 1, I knew that the mum was really yappy and she wasn't a nice person. I didn't like her. But to mentally and physically abuse someone, you need to get put into jail.
What did I ever do to her to deserve that? A part of me wanted to cry and the other part wanted to fight. I was so full of pain and sadness. It was torture. The following day, it was like I no longer existed inside the house. My dad was really depressed. He moved me
look
to
how
a nursing
sad he
home,
looks.
exactly like I'd expected would happen. I felt worthless now without Snowball and without people around me. I became even more of a shell of my former self. Another year went by and everyone still thought I was in a deep coma. In the nursing house, everything was so quiet.
I honestly feel so bad for that family. Like, that family has literally been torn apart. First of all, the mum is awful. The dad is now sad that his daughter is basically dead but is being kept alive. She can't speak to anyone. She's in a coma. And then the dog got taken away, and then the mum cheated and left the dad.
No voices, no movements, and no talking. Just a stranger who moved me left and right every day and who made sure that my machines were working normally. The 6-year mark came and went.
6
and then the
years?
7th, and everything was the same. I used to figure out that the time from the nurses changing shifts every 6 hours.
How long has she been in a coma for? Oh my gosh, like, that's been nearly like 8 years, I think. Think of all the stuff you've done over the past 8 years, like all the memories you've made, the people you've hung out with. Like, 8 years is a long time.
That meant that on the 4th time I was moved, a day would have passed. No one visited me during the 3 years that I spent there, except my friend Maisie. No one cared about me but her.
Did the dad not come and see her? Or maybe it would be too much in him because, like, he's so emotionally, like, unstable.
I lived in terror. I knew every day would be exactly the same as the last one, over and over again. I totally lost any hope I had of hearing another person's voice. But then one night, my dad decided to visit me. I had no idea what date it was because I'd lost all sense of time.
At least the dad came. Like, he might not have came much, but it's nice to know that he actually did care about his daughter, unlike the mom.
But it happened to be my 20th birthday. He held my hand and I couldn't believe it when I heard his voice. It felt like a dream. He told me, "You won't be alone anymore. I'll be with you forever from now on."
Oh, that's so sweet. Like, I actually love the dad so much.
I can't believe you just turned 20. Emotions welled up in me and suddenly I could feel the familiar fluttering of my eyelids. I had to open my eyes. I couldn't stay like
Do
this
you?
anymore.
Oh my god, she just opened her eyes. I said at the start of the video, I hope this has a happy ending, and I honestly do. I'm starting to think she actually got out of the coma.
My dad had his face buried in my shoulder and he was crying. He couldn't see my face or my eyes, but when he turned his head, he jumped and ran outside screaming
Yeah, he would
at the
be
top
shocked.
of his voice. Doctor, I need a doctor. Perhaps emotions have more power than we realize. My dad's love for me made me open my eyes once again. The doctors ran some tests on me and none of them could explain what had happened. They only said the damage that her head suffered was apparently able to heal with time. Your daughter is out of her coma. To make sure I was able to hear them, the doctor asked me to blink twice. And I did it.
Oh, yay. I'm actually really happy now. This is a really happy ending. It's crazy to think that she's now 20. After 7 years of being in a coma, she's finally woken up.
Being able to communicate again, even in a simple way, felt like the best thing in the world.
Oh,
But even more
yay.
than that was the fact that I was no longer a nobody. Dad was so excited. He didn't even know where to begin. But my movement and reactions were still limited.
Yeah, see, she's been in a coma for so long, like her muscles are going to be weak. I don't know if you know this, but this is a fun fact. Astronauts are up in space, like where NASA is. Whenever they land again, they literally have to go to a gym or like the rehab or rehabilitation center. I can't say that word. But basically they learn to walk again because they haven't walked in like so long because all they do is float around in space.
It would take time. There were seriously times where I almost gave up. But I had
Don't
to
give
hold
up,
on to
keep
this.
going.
My dad promised never to leave me alone, and he kept his word.
Her dad
At
is
night,
so
my dad
adorable.
moved my bed towards the window. It was the first time I'd seen the sky for the last 7 years. At that moment, a star fell from the sky. I closed my eyes and wished to be able to speak again. I mean, there must have been a reason for the star to fall at that moment, right? It couldn't have been a coincidence.
If you remember in part 1, her dad told her a story about shooting stars. I can't actually remember what he said, but it was something about people who wish things and it comes true, so hopefully she'll be able to speak soon.
That night, my dad told me about that dark day. He told me how Snowball ran home barking nonstop. My mom tried to shut him up and to kick him out, but he refused. He bit my dad's pants and kept pushing until my dad came with him outside. From afar, he saw me motionless on the ground. He panicked and drove me to the hospital.
Oh,
in a
wait,
hurry.
they're telling us the
There,
story
they
about
told
how
him
she
that there was no
fell.
hope, but my dad wouldn't give up.
That's actually crazy to think that the dog basically saved her life. Like, if she didn't have that dog, there would be a high possibility that she would have been dead. She would have just been lying there on the ground.
He knew there would come a day where I'd be okay again. He must have gotten sick of waiting for that day. It's true that I was happy for recovering gradually, but even then I didn't feel completely free. People around me were still controlling everything. When and what I ate.
Yeah,
if I
she
could
probably
stay in
still
bed,
feel
or
like a
if I should be
slave.
sitting on a chair. It didn't matter how many times I blinked. I couldn't say anything except for yes and no.
You also have to realize that it's going to take her quite a while to be able to move around and speak again. Like, she hasn't spoken or moved for around about 8 years or something like that. Like, it doesn't just happen overnight. It's going to take months.
One day, my dad came in all happy. He told me that the doctors had finally agreed to let him take me on a wheelchair around the
yay.
city. It was the first time in so long that I get to move and finally leave my bed. I was scared. The outside world must have changed a lot.
She hasn't been
I didn't know if I
outside
should
in
go,
years.
But I needed this. It was time to get back out there. I remember one moment from that day very vividly. My dad left me alone in the car on our way back in order to buy something quickly from the store. A woman passed by, looked at me and smiled. I didn't know the reason behind her smile back then, and I'll never know. But that small smile, a small human interaction, made me feel better again.
See, whenever I see people, I always smile at them, but half the time they literally glare back at me. Like, I'll be walking down a street or in a shop and I'll smile at like an old person and they just glare back at me. It's honestly so rude.
That woman's smile is what pushed me to continue. Seeing my dad come into my room was always the best moment of my day. However, I wasn't pleased when my dad entered my room with the press who came to listen to my story.
Oh no.
Apparently, they decided that my story was worth being told and shared.
See, she probably wants to keep all of this private, or she wants to keep it private until she's comfortable talking about it publicly. Hopefully the dad will get a bit of money for it, like it'll help him out financially.
The press ruined my peace and quiet. My mom even returned just so
Oh,
she
look
could
who
be in
it
the
is.
spotlight. She returned after disappearing for so long, just for fame.
Just kick
The
her
press
out.
did help a bit though. My dad had them help us look for solutions and treatments that might help me get better. My mom though, well, she didn't exactly show up because she suddenly remembered the importance of family. She was just there for fame. And dad wanted me to decide if she could stay or not.
She better say no, like the mum can't say.
Mom's answer was, "My dear daughter, do you want your mommy back in your life?"
She
I
doesn't.
blinked nonstop, and this meant I wanted her to go because I knew she didn't care if I lived or
Good, get
died.
rid of her.
My My dad was a person who'd taken care of me my whole life. Of course he had weak moments where he wasn't by my side, but at least he still loved me enough and thought of me all the time. And for me, that was enough.
See, their relationship is so adorable. Like, they honestly have such a strong, unbreakable bond. And I feel like this whole situation of her being put into the coma has made them even stronger. It's so nice to see.
And guess what? My dad got in contact with one of the big companies that made medical devices. They had created a device that gets implanted inside the brain and is connected to a special computer. The device sends electric waves to the computer that then says the words out loud. That company heard about my condition in the media and were happy to help me. The first time they tried this on me was pretty funny. Everything I said made everyone laugh, but for me it was sad because I never got an answer to my question.
I'd actually be really scared to try that out because anything you'd think in your head would automatically be said by the speaker. Like, you could literally think in your head, oh, that person looks so ugly, and the speaker would say it.
What I asked was, what happened to my dog Snowball? My story might be sad. Some of you might believe it.
Oh wait, what happened to the dog?
Others will say that it is just a product of my imagination. But what can't be denied is that there are a lot of people like me in this world who no one knows anything about because they don't have the ability to connect with people.
I just want to know what happened to the dog. Like, honestly, her and Snowball need to get reunited.
It wouldn't hurt to act nicely towards them and not to ignore them because, like me, they have feelings too. My suffering lasted for 7 years, but I truly believe that the star that fell that night was the reason my wish of being able to talk
It's
again
the story
came true.
her dad told her.
Everything happens for a reason. Did you like my story? Don't forget to tell me what you think in the comments below.
Okay, so we didn't actually find out what happened to Snowball. Anyways, that's the end of the video. I hope you all did enjoy this video. So let me know if I should react to more videos like this. There's probably a lot more videos where it's like a part 1, part 2, part 3. If you'd like to see me do videos like that, where I put like 2 parts in one or 2 separate videos, let me know and I'll definitely do that. Go and check out their channel. I'll link it down in the description down below. And yes, I will see you all in my next video.